Now, our former President Jacob Zuma wanting the chair of the Zondo Commission to recuse himself. Just how feasible is this? What are the constitutional implications here? Let's find out from the Executive Secretary of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, KSEC, that Mr. Lawson, Naidoo. Lawson, good morning and thank you very much for your time. I guess within the next couple of hours we'll find out about the outcome of the application by Jacob Zuma's lawyers for Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo to recuse himself. But ahead of it, I was just wondering, from your perspective, what has changed here? Why would Jacob Zuma have now be using this at this stage of this process when before he's appeared very freely and voluntarily at this commission?
Good morning, Dan, and thank you very much. I think that's a very pertinent question because in his affidavit for the recusal application, Mr. Zuma says he had concerns about the Deputy Chief Justice being appointed to this position when Chief Justice Mogoeng put forward his name, before the commission was established. And he says in his affidavit that he didn't feel that it was his place to second-guess the Chief Justice because he didn't want to be seen to be interfering with the appointment. But if he had genuine concerns about Justice Zondo at that time, then it was surely his responsibility to raise those privately and discreetly with the Chief Justice and to say, for these reasons, I don't think this is an appropriate appointment. But he opted not to do that. Over 2.5 years later, he's now raising it for the first time. So the question has to be asked, at what point in the proceedings did the realization dawn on Mr. Zuma that the Deputy Chief Justice is not being impartial towards him? And that's certainly not clear from the affidavit that he's filed, all 102 pages of it.
We'll have to hear, just to understand now, as I'm speaking to you, that a motorcade that's presumed to be carrying the former President Jacob Zuma has arrived in Braamfontein for this morning's hearings. What, in your mind, would the Commission have to weigh up? Because some people are saying, if the Deputy Chief Justice accedes to this application, then it will make a mockery of the whole process, and some people may even take advantage of what's coming out if he does it.
Well, indeed, the practical considerations here is if the Deputy Chief Justice were to accede to this request and recuse himself, then what happens? Who's going to preside? There is nobody else there to preside over this, the work of this commission. So it would, render irrelevant all of the work that has been done over the last 2.5 years, the hundreds of millions of rands that has been spent on this commission of inquiry. And, it's for those practical reasons and the very reasons that I do not believe that the Deputy Chief Justice has not been fair to Mr. Zuma. I think he actually is bent over backwards to accommodate him. If we look at the opportunities that he gave to Mr. Zuma to make, a statement at the when he appeared in July of last year. So, I fully expect that the Deputy Chief Justice will dismiss this application this morning. And that is likely to lead, Dan, to the President then seeking to review that decision in the courts. And we'll see that winding itself through the courts for the next few years, long after the Commission has ceased its work.
So if he does that and takes the legal route, if the Deputy Chief Justice dismisses his application for the chairperson's recusal, is he bound to still remain providing testimony? Because the Commission had said from today to the 20th for the evidence of Mr. Zuma.
Well, I think it's quite clear that Mr. Zuma's strategy is to avoid having to give testimony, to avoid having to answer the very difficult questions that the Commission needs to present to him based on the testimony of witnesses that have appeared before the Commission, based on issues that arise from the Public Protector's State of Capture report, and he's going to do everything to try and avoid having to answer that. So I fully expect that Mr. Zuma will not want to participate in the hearings today, even if the Deputy Chief Justice dismisses the application, and he'll do so on the basis that he's going to consider his legal options, and one would expect that his legal team will file a review application in the High Court pretty quickly afterwards.
Just very briefly before I let you go, Lawson, do you think, we can't really guess what's in his mind, but just judging by how we've seen the tactics that the former president has played, that he's also using this tactics now with the Commission because of his pending corruption trial?
Well, I think that the two are separate. The charges on the corruption trial relate to the arms deal from the 1990s, and so not really pertinent to the issues that have arisen in the State Capture Commission. But I think the strategy that we've seen from the former president in terms of those fraud and corruption charges is that it's taken over 10 years for those charges to come to court because of the delaying tactics that he employed, and it's the same strategy that he appears to be making use of now to avoid having to answer questions to the Deputy Chief Justice.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait because no matter how you look at it, he has to account. And that's why the State Capture Inquiry has been set at accountability for past actions when he was head of state with all kinds of allegations and all the the witnesses who've appeared before the commission. Everybody wants to hear him account.
Indeed, this is an opportunity for the former president to come forward and say and clear his name and saying, I wasn't responsible for this, and to produce evidence to that effect. Because if he is unable to do that, then the commission will inevitably have to come to the conclusion that there was indeed state capture, that the former president was a key part of that in terms of handing over the reins of state power to private individuals such as the Gupta brothers and the like, in terms of the making of cabinet appointments to state-owned companies, and the looting that took place as a result of that. So ultimately, I think the former president is in a very difficult situation. Unless he rebuts the evidence, the evidence there is overwhelming that he was complicit.
Thank you very much, Lawson Naidoo from KSEC, for your time and insights this morning. I heard, of course, of that decision or that hearing, let's say, of the former president's application for the chairperson of the State Capture Inquiry, that's the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, to recuse himself. And the former president himself, that's what the story that's breaking just a short while ago, as I mentioned. We've seen the motorcade arriving in Braamfontein, and of course, we're waiting for those proceedings to start.